I'm Jacob Courtwright, and this is The Locker Room. Hello everyone, and welcome back to a brand new episode of The Locker Room. I, of course, am your host, Jacob Courtwright. We've got a lot to get to today, so we are just going to go straight into it. You know the drill. You know what to do. Make sure you're following The Locker Room on our social media. That is the best way to get the word of mouth spread. The Locker Room Podcast 615 on Instagram, The Locker Room Host Jacob on Facebook, The Locker Room 22 on TikTok, and TLR with Jacob on Twitter. This episode of The Locker Room is brought to you by FNX Fitness. Go to fnxfit.com, that is fnxfit.com, for all of your gym needs. Everything you need to make a bigger, better version of you, go to fnxfit.com, made right here in the beautiful USA. Use your promo code TLRHOST, that is TLRHOST, for 15% off your order. If you were able to catch The Locker Room last week, you know that we had the Chief Gaming Officer and the co-founder of the Fan Control Football League, Mr. Patrick Dees, on the show last week, and they debuted this past weekend. February 13th, the Fan Control Football League kicked it off, and I told everybody I was going to do this. This is my first honest opinion, game one, day one of the Fan Control Football League. My first initial thoughts: the Fan Control Football League is the perfect beer football league. What I mean by that, the Fan Control Football League is something that you can watch, you can sit down, you can have a beer with a bunch of your buddies, you guys can make some bets, make some wagers on the different teams. Like, it's competitive, but at the exact same time, it's one of those things that you can turn on, you can enjoy sports, and you don't have to take it too seriously. So when I say beer football league, I mean that in the most respectful way possible. I consider, and all of you know I'm a big XFL fan, I consider the XFL a beer football league. Something that while the players are going to be competitive, while you want one team or the other team to win, while you want to be calling good plays like in the Fan Control Football League, it's something that you can relax and watch, and it's sports. That's what I love about leagues like this. You know, growing up, I went to the Gary Railcats games in Gary, Indiana. It was a minor league baseball team. While they were competitive, while they wanted to win that game, they set an entertainment atmosphere. The NFL is there to compete. The NBA is there to compete. While they are entertainers, I put that in quotation marks, they are competitors at heart first. What I love about these leagues is these leagues are, while they are competitors, they are entertainers at heart first. They want to put on a show for the fans. I remember growing up on those minor league baseball games, and they would have inning entertainment after every single inning. Top of the ninth, bottom of the ninth, top of the first, bottom of the first. No matter what, there was always something entertaining going on. The announcers were very engaging and made it a lot of fun. And I thought we saw that a lot with the Fan Control Football League. Especially, you had Richard Sherman popping in and talking about the game, but also playing around with Patrick and a couple other guys that were talking on the mics for Fan Control Football. It was just a lot of fun. It's one of those relax, grab a beer, grab a buddy, place a 20 down on the Zappers, place a 20 down on the Wild Aces, whatever, and just have a good old time and be entertained. While the NFL has so much more competition and it's more competitive, the FCFL and the XFL and places like that are a place for you to just be able to keep football alive, but at the same time, it's a lot less competitive, it's a lot more relaxing, and most of us, even though you might be a fan of the Fan Control Football League like I am a Zappers play caller. I'm part of the Zappers team, but I'm not dead set that I have to have the Zappers winning every week. I think it's just a lot of fun to have good, fun entertainment. I want to see some hard collisions. I want to see some good touchdowns, and I want to drink a beer and place a 20 down on the game. So I also told you I'm going to be honest. I'm an honest guy. You guys know I talk honestly into the mic. I'm not just going to make up how I feel about something. That's just not who I am. I am not Skip Bayless, right? I'm not someone who just goes out there and rants a bunch of dumbass stuff just so I can get more views. So I did have a few technical problems trying to figure out the whole system before the game started. The good thing is the Zappers didn't play until till the later half of the day, so I had the whole kind of first game to kind of settle in and go, all right, how do I work this? How do I figure this out? And it took me, I will say, it took me about 30, 40 minutes to finally get comfortable with how the operations work, how to call the plays, how to make sure that Twitch and everything was streaming and everything was great. Now, I know some of that does fall on my shoulders. I'm not very technically savvy. I've actually only been on Twitch, I think, like 3 times other than this occasion. But Twitch, I was able to figure out pretty easily. The app was a little confusing at first, a little too much on that first page. I was like, all right, I don't really know where to go. So I will say, if you did get frustrated, just give it time. Spend like 15, 20 minutes in the app, figure out where everything goes, and then you'll be your experience will be a whole lot better. So I took that entire first game to really get to know the app, get Twitch and everything rolling. So that way, when it came to to the time for the Zappers to play, I was really able to step in there, and it was a whole lot better. But as I said, I enjoy the beer leagues. I think this is a very good beer league. The fun part was seeing these players be entertainers on the field, which is something that Patrick talked about last week. I liked watching these guys when they score touchdowns. I'm in the mindset, like, have a 25-minute tea party in the end zone. Just, like, don't be mad when I'm cheering for a guy to take your head off the next play. The addition of, like, the photo booth in the corner was also a lot of fun, like watching all these guys pile into this small photo booth. That's a lot of fun. The owners engaging during the commentary was a lot of fun. I love seeing Johnny Manziel back on the football field. Almost ripped it off right out the gate, almost ripped off like a 65-yard touchdown, which would have been insane to start off his first play for the Fan Control Football League. But speaking of Johnny Manziel, like those of you who are going to be mad that I say it's a beer league, and like I said, I mean beer league in the best way possible. He literally is the one who came out after his loss with a 48-44 loss, and he said, "Win or lose, we booze." Like, that is just what this league is. It's a lot of fun. It doesn't take itself too seriously. They're there to entertain you. It's a lot of fun to turn on a Saturday night and just relax. And I mean, you can see that through Johnny Manziel as well. He seems happy. He's even making light, like, I'm washed up. Did you see me get caught from behind? Like, little stuff like that. Like, he seems to just be having fun, and that's what I like to see out of Johnny Manziel. These players looked like they were having a lot of fun. There was a lot of camaraderie. The personalities really shone through, whether it was a touchdown, whether it was a defensive stop. It's just a lot of fun, very entertaining. I mean, that's basically all I have to say. Very entertaining, a lot of fun, a great beer league. I'm telling you, if you want to have the best experience possible, get a bunch of buddies together. All of you either get on different teams and go against each other, or get on the same team, call plays together, crack open a Miller or a Bud Light. I'm a traditional guy, so I'm not going to do any of that fancy IPA bull crap. But crack open a beer, place a 20 down on the game, and just enjoy it for what it is, and that is a entertainment minor league football team. I love it, so I hope you guys enjoyed it, and congratulations to Patrick Dees and those guys for putting on a very successful weekend. Moving on, we have some big-name players, big-name trade destinations from the NBA and the NFL, so let's get into it. We are going to start off with not NBA trades or NFL trades, but I want to talk a little bit about what Draymond Green said in his post-game press conference last night. For those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, I'm telling you, if you get on any sports social media, SportsCenter, ESPN, Bleacher Report, first things first, whatever it is, this is the big story right now. Draymond Green came out last night and completely dismantled the NBA, dismantled their ownership, dismantled how they handle players' trades, and so on. There was a lot that encompassed it, but the main focus was how the ownership handles players and handles them being traded. So he highlighted 2 different instances, and what I would like to say is both of these instances are completely different. He highlighted how James Harden was treated, and then he highlighted how Andre Drummond was treated. So we'll get to how both of those players were treated and how I think those are completely different instances in just a second. Now, Draymond did say some good things. He did say that these ownerships, these owners do look at these players and they'll lie directly to their face and say, like, There was a story, and they refused to name the player, but he walked in and said, "Hey, I heard I'm getting traded. Am I getting traded?" And the owner said no. That very next day, he was traded, and he had to pack up his entire household and move within literally a week to be in, I don't even know the team, because they would refuse to say the player's name. Like, there are definitely problems when it comes to the trade market in the NBA and the NFL. But I think a lot of those problems fall on the owner's words, fall on the owner's shoulders. If that owner would have looked at him and said, yes, you are being traded, are signing the dotted line today, or the second they knew that deal was complete, it was signed on the dotted line, that player should instantly be notified. So that way that player can start mentally prepare to not be a part of that team anymore, get his family physically out of that state, and move on and look for a new house, look for a new way of life, look for a new school for your children in whatever city you're now being moved to. So I can see where frustration does set in for some of these athletes. I mean, that would be like you go to your job tomorrow and your boss goes, oh, by the way, we're transferring you to Florida and you have 2 days to get all your crap together to start on that next Monday. It's just like, no, that's not fair whatsoever. The second your boss knows, like, hey, we're transferring you, hey, we're trading you, the second that deal is officially signed, sealed, delivered, and they know exactly what's going on, that should literally be a meeting with the owner, the player saying, hey, we're trading you. It goes official midnight tonight, and I just want to let you know, like, you're going to have to start finding a house and stuff, and, here's a severance package, or here's a moving package. Here's $50,000 to go move your family into a house, right? Here's $50,000 to get your kids situated in a school. Whatever it would be. The owners have got to stop being complete douchebags, for a lack of a better term. Stop just looking at your players and lying to them directly in the face and saying, you're not being traded, and then that next day you're shipping them out, and then you wonder why these players get so pissed off and these players are so upset all the time. So to speak on Draymond Green positively at first, he did say some things like, hey, this crap has got to be cut out, or they've got to do something better for us players. You can't just ship us out and basically just say, figure it the frick out. No normal job would. If a normal job was transferring you, they would give you a time allotted and say, hey, you have 2 weeks to get your stuff, then you're moving, and also here's a few, $1,000 to get moved in. So if the NBA and the NFL want to claim that they are companies, which they are, and that these athletes are workers, which they are, then they need to treat their workers better. From now on, what I would say that I think this would fix a lot of the problems. If you're being traded, let's say Victor Oladipo, they're having talks with the Nuggets, right? Victor Oladipo gets traded to the Nuggets. Right now, he's in Houston. Houston should go to Victor Oladipo once that deal is complete. Now, you can't go before the deal. I 100% get that because deals fall through all the time. They should go to Victor Oladipo once it's signed, sealed, delivered. Call him in and say, hey, we just signed on the dotted line. We have traded you to the Denver Nuggets. You are being transferred, so to speak, in normal layman's terms for us normal job workers. They should give him at least a 2-week span to move out of Houston into Denver. So he shouldn't have to report to the Denver Nuggets for at least 2 weeks. That gives him plenty of time to situate his family, get his home life situated, get everything moved in. And they should give him, let's just say $50,000 as a departure bonus. Like, hey, here's $50,000. This should cover your moving cost. This should cover a down payment on a house, or this should help get your kids into the schools that you need to get them into, whatever it is. That would be my policy going forward. That keeps a happier player, a player that is mentally in the right space. To use my wife's words, we were talking about this, and my wife is a sports psychologist. She said, and this was said on national TV today, that there are athletes that are coming forward saying how mentally taxing and how mentally hard it is to just show up to work one day and they go, by the way, you're not going to be here tomorrow. So in order for these players' mental health to be in the right spot, in order for these players' lives to be in the right spot, you've got to set them up for success. A good business, a good boss sets you up for success. If you no longer want this person at this company, if you want to promote them or if you want to trade them, whatever it is, set that person up for success. So I think that would take care of a lot of what Draymond Green was talking about, in the sense that these players get upset when they just get shipped out, like an order, like an Amazon package. Like, yo, Victor Oladipo is going to be delivered there next Tuesday. Like, I get how mad that makes the players, and I get why they get upset. So that would be my policy going forward. Now to what Draymond Green did wrong, what he said wrong. He compared the James Harden scenario to the Andre Drummond scenario, right? For those of you who don't know, we're about to walk through it. James Harden, at the very beginning of the year, said, I don't want to be in Houston. I don't want to play for Houston. So they fire the head coach, which is one of James' biggest problems. Okay, they fired the head coach. Then they brought in Stephen Silas, a black head coach, something that James Harden has been begging for around the league, more black head coaches. So they go, hey, we're going to hire Stephen Silas. I think that would be a great fit for you. Listen, Stephen Silas has earned his stripes. 20 years in the business, finally gets a head coaching job. I think it would be a great match for James Harden. He still doesn't even give that coach a chance. So that's where he's already contradicting himself. Like, we need to give more black head coaches a chance. And then you turn around and look at Stephen Silas and go, I'm not going to be here. Figure it out. So his chance of success goes down because you just decide you want to dip. Then James Harden goes and blames his teammates for every little problem. The reason they were losing is they didn't have enough help. I'm sorry, Eric Gordon is a good player. You get John Wall, good player. Chris Paul, good player. There was a lot of those playoff losses that were your fault, James Harden. Stop passing the blame to everybody else. That's the one problem I have with most of these NBA players. A lot of them are just big crybabies. It's your fault. You didn't clutch up after being up against Golden State. You didn't clutch up after having a 9-point lead and on your way to a championship against Golden State. That is your fault. You went 0 for 3 down the stretch. You went 1 for 7 in the fourth quarter. You did. But you're blaming your teammates. So already, James Harden has created a toxic atmosphere. He wants out of Houston, doesn't care about his head coach. His teammates were the reason that he never had any success down in Houston. Not his fault at all. Then the Houston Rockets go, listen, we want to keep you. We're going to try and make it work. So James Harden decides to show up 25 pounds overweight. He's literally walking up and down the court, not playing defense, doesn't care. So they're like, great. We're going to try and find a trade destination for you, and then we'll ship you out of here. Then James Harden demands that he must be traded to a certain team that he wants to be traded to. And this is where I have a problem. Draymond Green's like, that's okay. No, it's not. You have a contract. Your job is to show up and play for that team. If you decide that you want to break that contract and leave that team, you then don't get to decide where you sign your next contract. And this is what I had a problem with what Draymond said, is he was just basically giving James Harden the excuse of, well, James Harden wanted out of Houston and they still made him stay on the roster and they still made him play. Okay, so if I'm Houston, I would have just said, James, you're benched. You're not playing a single dribble of basketball. You will sit at the end of the bench until we can find you a trade partner that benefits our organization. It doesn't have to benefit you. Why? Because that player is breaking that contract. So that is the James Harden situation that Draymond Green's boo-hooing over. Then he decides to go off on the Cleveland Cavaliers for what they are doing to Andre Drummond. So the Cleveland Cavaliers earlier this year got a trade from the Brooklyn Nets. They got Jarrett Allen, which is a younger, better center than Andre Drummond. Okay, so they told Andre Drummond, and the thing is, Detroit did the exact same thing with Blake Griffin. They told these players, they said, listen, don't dress out for the game, don't play. Why don't you just sit on the bench so you can stay healthy, and we'll find a trade partner. Now, I think the problem he had with Andre Drummond as well is Andre Drummond was in his clothes. Then the organization came down and said, like, hey, go put on your street clothes. You're not going to be playing anyways. That's where that is where the unprofessionalism came from. And that was one of his problems that I agreed with. Like, if this player, you know he's not going to play, then don't have him dress out and warm up and then be like, yo, go put on your street clothes. But what Detroit is doing so well and what Cleveland did so well is they said, listen, guys, we are finding a trade for you one way or the other. So why don't you just sit at the end of the bench? We don't want you to get hurt. We'll get the highest value for you. You'll get the highest dollar amount. So it works for both sides. Right now, Andre Drummond's what? 17-9? 17 points, 9 rebounds is what he's averaging, I think. Now, if Andre Drummond, if they let him play and he's continually splitting time with Jarrett Allen, his numbers might look like 9-5. Well, 9-5 doesn't deserve a massive contract, but 17-9 is pretty damn good. So it benefits the players, it benefits the organization, and keeps both parties happy. Andre Drummond even said, like, listen, Cleveland talked to me. This is the right thing to do. Detroit did it first with Blake Griffin. They said, listen, we're going to get rid of Blake Griffin. There's no reason for him to be playing. We're just going to sit him until we find a trade or, a place to trade him. That is the way to handle business. They have given them an opportune time to rest. They are giving them opportune time to at least get their things together. Now, they don't know where these players are going to end up, but like I said, that is where my policy would come into play. Like, hey, listen, we know for a fact we're signing the dotted line that you're going to Orlando. You have 2 weeks to get to Orlando. Here's $50,000. Thanks for everything you've done for this organization. Boom, out the door. You have a happy player. You have a very well-run organization, and that means you're going to have more happy players in that organization and more players that want to play for you. So when it comes to Draymond Green, there's a lot of stuff that he said that was good, but there's some stuff that was bad. You can't just bully your way out of a team and complain that they're not treating you fair because you're not treating that organization fair. So there it is. There's my rant. Let me know what you think in the comments. I know a lot of you have said, like, you agree with everything Draymond said. Some of you have said, like, this man's a fool. He should never talk again. I think there's a healthy balance when it comes to what Draymond said. Those are my points to it. But let me know what you think in the DMs, in the comments, whatever. I'd love to hear from you. On that note, we have some NBA trades to get to. There are some big-name free agents. We've already talked about 2 of them, Andre Drummond, Blake Griffin, Lonzo Ball, and more. A lot of names that are coming out on the trade block and or free agency block very soon. So let's get into our first trade. I'm going to give you 3 destinations per player. Trade number 1, the guy we literally just got done talking about, Andre Drummond. Now, Andre Drummond is a traditional center. He's more like a Joel Embiid, except Joel Embiid can shoot way better than he can. He's a 17-9 guy. He's going to get his points. He's going to create space. He's going to rebound the basketball. There's several teams that need an asset like this, and all of them are contenders. First and foremost, the Clippers. Although they got Serge Ibaka, and everybody's praising how well Serge Ibaka fits, they also have no real rim protection. Zubac. Although Zubac is a nice player, he's a good scoring big man, Zubac is not a very good rebounding and defensive big man. He just isn't. Statistically, one of the worst in the league, actually, when it comes to rim protection. So, they could use somebody like an Andre Drummond, somebody that is going to create a lot of space, he's going to demand attention down low, and he's going to clear the lane for players like Kawhi Leonard, Paul George, Patrick Beverley, Lou Williams to be able to drive to the basket and really seal off and give them a lot more dynamic of an offense. Team number 2, the Brooklyn Nets. Now, this is the major piece the Nets are missing right now. If the Brooklyn Nets somehow are able to get Andre Drummond, although he's not a very great defensive big man, he is a good rebounding big man, a great space-creating big man. If they're able to get a player like this, the Brooklyn Nets not only become instant contenders, but they might jump up to instant favorites if the Los Angeles Lakers don't make a move, which there are some moves on this board that we can talk about in just a moment. This is a perfect fit for Brooklyn. Andre, listen, as much as I like DeAndre Jordan, I've always enjoyed watching him play, DeAndre Jordan has jack all in the tank. I mean, it's kind of just sad watching DeAndre Jordan hop out there. I'm better off having Jared Dudley out there than DeAndre Jordan. DeAndre is giving you, 7 points, 4 rebounds a game. Basically, his production is minimal at best. So to keep Kevin Durant from having to play the 5 whenever they play a team like the Lakers and it's AD and KD, they really need to get a big man and get a big man that will just take that responsibility off of Kevin Durant's shoulders. Although I think Kevin Durant's a great player, he shouldn't be responsible for being the leading rebounder every single game. And if that's the case, you're going to see Kevin Durant be missing a lot of games due to tic-tac injuries. It's just how it is. Kevin Durant weighs 12 pounds. Him banging down low with guys like AD or banging down low with Joel Embiid isn't going to be what benefits this this Nets team. This is the best fit for Andre Drummond. Now, another place that I think is a great fit for Andre Drummond and could potentially be the best fit is somewhere like Los Angeles. Now I do like Marc Gasol, but what Marc Gasol brings in leadership, he doesn't bring on the court anymore. If this was prime Marc Gasol, if this was Marc Gasol of even 4 or 5 years ago, I would say the Lakers are the runaway favorites. But Marc Gasol has proven to be a lot slower than I think they anticipated. He's been a possession center more so than a court center, which the Lakers are a running gun team. They like to push the flow. Well, that is not what's going to happen when you have Marc Gasol in your lineup. Marc Gasol is going to take it low and slow. Now, while he is a great passer of the basketball, I think he would be a very good fit here, Andre Drummond would, in place of Marc Gasol. Now, if I'm the Lakers, I would see if I could retain Marc Gasol. Keep Marc Gasol in that first starting role, get Andre Drummond with that second unit, and then move Montrezl Harrell to the 4. So now you have AD, Montrez, LeBron James, Andre Drummond. Your team is massive. There is a bonus team on this one. Also, the Raptors have reached out about Andre Drummond. Also a very good fit. Andre Drummond would instantly be the starter. They lost Marc Gasol. They lost Serge Ibaka. The Raptors have a void to fill. Andre Drummond would be a very nice piece to go fit in that offense. Moving on, Blake Griffin. We've talked about Blake Griffin earlier as well. Listen, I don't know how much value Blake Griffin adds as on a championship team. I don't think he really fits well with the Clippers. I don't really think he fits well with the Lakers whatsoever. And I really don't think he fits well with the 76ers. He's got a weird fit for me. I think some really good places. Washington would be a good place for somebody like a Blake Griffin. You have two dynamic guards. Now you would have a dynamic power forward and Blake Griffin that you could put with Russ and with Bradley Beal. So that's an interesting fit for me. I think Dallas, for me, is the best fit for Blake Griffin. Pair Blake Griffin up with Luka Doncic, who's a top 5 passer of the basketball right now, and he's still so young, it's unreal. Luka Doncic is going to be an MVP for years to come. But give him paired with Luka Doncic, with Kristaps Porzingis, with a good shooting team. I think Blake Griffin would dwell very well in Dallas. He'd be a good fit for that organization. It would be kind of like a Zion Williamson, Brandon Ingram matchup. You have a dynamic guard that can get to the lane. He can get his shot off, but then he's also a very good passer of the basketball, so he would open up a lot of easy baskets for Blake Griffin, and it would also help Dallas on the rebounding aspect, something they are league low in this year. And then last but not least, Orlando would be a decent fit for Blake Griffin as well. If Blake Griffin's looking to just go get a big paycheck and have fun, I think Orlando would be a nice little spot for Blake Griffin to go end up. Now we've got Lonzo Ball. I thought when Lonzo got to the Pelicans, this was going to be Lonzo's home for the next several years. Clearly it's not. I mean, teams are shopping around for Lonzo Ball like crazy. My best fits for Lonzo Ball, first and foremost, the Bulls. Him paired with Colby Covington. You have Zach LaVine up there. Now, do I think that he instantly makes the Bulls like an above 500 team or one of the best teams in the league? Absolutely not. But he's a good fit with those young guys, with their play style. Guys that are run and gun type of players. He wouldn't have to do a whole lot of the scoring, which is, I think, what the Pelicans are so perplexed with. Like, the Pelicans had Brandon Ingram step up in a major way, so now they don't need Lonzo Ball to really run point because Brandon Ingram's really taking over that position. They really don't need Lonzo Ball to score 15-plus points a game because you have Zion Williamson in an insane percentage this year. So the Bulls would be a very good fit for Lonzo Ball. It would allow him to be with the younger crowd, run-and-gun type of guys, and I think he would make the Bulls a better team. The Clippers. The Clippers need a point guard. I don't give a damn what anybody says about Patrick Beverley. While he is a bulldog, while Patrick Beverley is going to fight, while he's going to be, he's going to have those moments where he's on national TV taunting LeBron or taunting KD. What we saw when he called out KD, what we saw when he called out LeBron the last time they all met up, is him get his lunch taken from him time and time again. Although he's a feisty defender, he's not a very good defender. Although he's a decent shooter, he's not a very good shooter. So if you're going to have those same aspects, why not go get a guy that's 6'4", who's younger, who's a little bit better on the defensive side of the basketball for his simple length purposes, and he's a very good passer, which would be beneficial to Paul George and Kawhi Leonard and to Serge Ibaka. I think he makes a lot of sense at Los Angeles. He would make them, honestly, right there with the Los Angeles Lakers if the Lakers do nothing neck to neck as the second best team in the West right now. I still think the Lakers have more, how I like to say, team chemistry when it comes down to it. And then last but not least, Lonzo Ball to the Knicks. The Knicks need a point guard. The Knicks are the Knicks. I think Lonzo's name would resonate well in New York. It reminds me a lot of like a Jeremy Lin type of character. Somebody who, while I think Lonzo Ball is better than Jeremy Lin had a hot spurt, but he was never really that great of a basketball player. I think Lonzo Ball would fare very nicely in New York. He's a big draw name. Of course, you have LeVar Ball, having his kid in a big city market like New York would be good. It gives New York a point guard. And listen, New York right now is sitting at the 6th seed in the East. So New York can make things interesting. Put Lonzo Ball at point guard. This team might end up 4th or 5th seed in the East, and you might see a great first-round matchup, a Brooklyn Nets versus the Knicks maybe. That would be a lot of fun. Now, this next player on here, there's one trade destination for him. I know I said I got 3 per player. There's only one trade destination that only makes sense if the Los Angeles Lakers do it. Jeremy Grant being traded from the Denver Nuggets to the Los Angeles Lakers in place of Latavius Caldwell-Pope, Alex Caruso, and probably Talen Horton-Tucker. We all know what Jeremy Grant did last year. Balled the frick out in the playoffs, played very well against the Clippers. They ended up taking down the Clippers, played great defense, and he was a knockdown shooter in big moments, scoring like 23 and 25 in his final couple playoff games that literally sent them to the conference finals against the Los Angeles Lakers. There's only one team here that this really matters to go to, and that's the Los Angeles Lakers if they decide to do it. The Lakers already have problems finding time for a lot of these young guards. You bring in Wesley Matthews, a very good knockdown shooter. He can barely get any minutes. Talen Horton-Tucker, you're sprinkling 10 minutes here, 15 minutes here. Markieff Morris, somebody who was a key part of your win last year, has barely played and I don't think has played for 5 straight games. Alex Caruso, while he still gets his minutes, and Latavius Caldwell-Pope still get their minutes, there's a lot of moving parts here. I would try and hold on to Alex Caruso and get rid of Kyle Kuzma along with Latavius Caldwell-Pope, or try and keep Latavius Caldwell-Pope and get rid of Kyle Kuzma and Alex Caruso. I try to do either one of those pairings. Jeremy Grant would fill a need that they need, which is a long defender for the playoffs. If they're going to match up with Brooklyn in the finals, Jeremy Grant would do a better job on Kevin Durant than just about anybody, or would do a better job on James Harden than just about anybody. So they would need him for the defensive purpose, and of course, scoring is just added on. This Lakers team can score with the best of them. So I think this would be the best place for Jeremy Grant if that happens. I know it's been rumored this week, but if that happens, there's only one place. And last but not least, Victor Oladipo, the only place going for him to go, the Denver Nuggets. If he's not going to Denver and he's not going to do basically they're trying to set up a dual guard with Jamal Murray, Victor Oladipo, and then of course the Joker in Nikola Jokic. If they're not trying to set up that tandem, then stay in Houston. You've got dynamic guards in John Wall and Victor Oladipo together now. No reason to move him anywhere else. That's the only pairing I have for Victor Oladipo. There are your NBA trades. Let me know what you think of them in the comments. DM me. I'd love to hear what you think. Now let's get to the NFL. J.J. Watt is no longer a part of the Houston Texans. We found out earlier this week in a Twitter video that J.J. Watt and the Houston Texans have mutually agreed to part ways. Now, while J.J. Watt is not the most dynamic or not the best player on free agency market, he could be very interesting to some of these contending teams. So let's go ahead and start with J.J. Watt. Now, we know that J.J. Watt is in his older stages of his career. So the big question that's on everybody's minds right now is, does J.J. Watt want to compete for a Super Bowl, or does J.J. Watt want to just play football in the most comfortable place possible? And I think that deals a lot with why I picked these few teams for J.J. Watt to go to. Team number 1, Pittsburgh. Now, while Pittsburgh is still going to be a contender, until they, honestly, in my opinion, until they get a new quarterback, even though Ben Roethlisberger had a decent year last year, they just don't have that dynamic playmaking quarterback that can set them apart. So until Pittsburgh gets a new quarterback, I don't believe that they would ever be contenders when it comes to championships. But they would probably still be playoff bound next year. But does J.J. Watt just go join his brother T.J. in Pittsburgh and call it a career? End your career playing with your brother. You guys would be one of the best defensive lines in football simply just by adding you. It would be a lot of fun to see two brothers on the same team. Or does J.J. Watt say, hey, I'm going to make my way down to Tennessee. It's a little bit more comfortable. It's a little bit more my style. And do I pair up with Jadeveon Clowney, with my old head coach? Not head coach, but my old defensive coach that I have a great relationship with, and Mike Vrabel. Jadeveon Clowney has already expressed interest that he probably is going to be back with the Tennessee Titans. So then it's like the Houston pair all over again. You've got Jadeveon Clowney, you've got J.J. Watt. So do the Titans go out and make a play like that? Does J.J. Watt find that interesting at all? That's where I don't know. What is J.J. Watt's headspace? If J.J. Watt does decide, hey, I want to be a contender, I want to try and win a Super Bowl, of course we know he could go to the Chiefs. Of course we know he could go to Indianapolis and would be a great benefit to Indianapolis, especially if Indianapolis gets a quarterback. But I like him in Green Bay. I think what he would bring to that Green Bay defense is not only just an edge rusher, but a type of defensive presence where they're not going to get rolled over in any more playoff games. What J.J. Watt does, and that's what people don't understand, is a player like J.J. Watt, a player like even Jadeveon Clowney, who statistically was the most double-team player since he's been in the league. Players like that demand double teams, open up the line for all sorts of other players to get into that backfield. And that changes a defense entirely. Adding a dynamic guy like a J.J. Watt. Think about San Francisco. Think about, Pittsburgh. Adding guys like T.J. Watt. Adding guys like Nick Bosa, Joey Bosa. What those guys do for your defense is launch that defense into the top tier because they demand double teams. They demand bodies to go after them, and that opens up your defense in your playbook to a whole new, man blitz, zone blitz, whatever it is. So J.J. Watt, does he come to Tennessee if he's looking to just be a competitor and come with his old head coach, or does he go to Green Bay, which I think is the best likely landing spot if he tries to be a contender? Green Bay's got a small window here, and I think they could have the weapons to do it. Juju Smith-Schuster, his name has been thrown out there to pair up with Devontae Adams. I don't know what Green Bay might try and pull off in this offseason, but it could be very interesting. All right, let's move on to Carson Wentz. Now, I've talked about Carson Wentz several times. Here's my problem with Carson Wentz, and here's where I think the media gets it right and gets it wrong. The media says that, Carson Wentz can't play football basically at a high level anymore. That's right. Where they're wrong is he can't play football basically ever again. Carson Wentz needs to go to the right spot. Carson Wentz, I think, in order for Carson Wentz's career to be revived, in order for Carson Wentz to be a MVP caliber quarterback again, he needs to go to Indianapolis with his former coach, Frank Reich, or Chicago with Matt Nagy. Both of those guys coach very similar. Their offense is very similar. The rhetoric is very similar. He has a familiarity with both of those coaches, familiarity of both of those West Coast offensive systems, and he would plug in. He would instantly make the Colts not only the AFC South champions, but make the Colts probably the highest contender for this upcoming season. Listen, the Colts are on their way to make a bunch of moves. They have a ton of cap space. There's players like Chris Godwin, Juju Smith-Schuster that are rumbling out there that the Colts might try and pick up. Zach Ertz has been rumored to go there. So you have all of that scenario going around. Carson Wentz would be an incredible fit with Indianapolis, and I think could be not only return to MVP form, but could potentially be a Super Bowl winner if he stays with Indy. Chicago, honestly, he would be an incredible fit with Chicago as well. Why? The same system that Frank Reich runs is the same exact system that Matt Nagy likes to run. It's a West Coast offense, quick reads. Chicago's got a very good team, and Chicago's not done in the free agency and not done in the trade market. Mark my words, Chicago's going to be making moves, and Indianapolis are going to be making moves that are going to turn a lot of heads. So, depending on what Chicago and or Indianapolis lands at quarterback, let's say one of them gets Carson Wentz and one of them gets Deshaun Watson, bam. This is 2006 all over again. Bears versus Colts in the Super Bowl. Both have very good defenses. Both defenses are top 3. Both teams need a quarterback desperately to put them to the next level. Both teams have very smart head coaches. Those are my only 2 spots for Carson Wentz. Next, Deshaun Watson. I know this is the big one everybody wants to talk about. Everybody's got their own ideas. Here's the deal. Deshaun Watson to either the Jets or to Miami. Otherwise, stay at Houston. Now, Deshaun Watson apparently has expressed interest on going to the Jets. Why? Nobody really knows why he wants to go lose, but he, complains at Houston because of losing, but now he wants to go to New York and lose. Now, I understand it's a bigger market, but it's also the Jets. You're not going to the Giants, you're going to the Jets. So I don't understand Deshaun Watson's thinking when it comes to the Jets, and I don't understand what the Jets would do that for when they have so many picks. I would maintain that first-round pick and see if I can turn that into, 3 or 4 first-round picks. Hell, maybe even go after Marcus Mariota for the next couple years, build up these picks and do what Jacksonville is doing and have an okay quarterback for a couple of years. But now you've built up not only, triple the cap space, but you have 7 first-round picks. Do something crazy like that. The smart way to rebuild franchises. But I don't know why Deshaun Watson wants out of Houston so bad. If he wants to win, go to Miami. Go to Miami. I am not sold on Tua Tagovailoa. All of you who told me how great Tua was, I think you were honestly proven wrong last year. I'm not saying Tua Tagovailoa can't be a good quarterback in this league and can't be a starter in this league. What I'm saying is Tua Tagovailoa got a lot of hype. They expected a lot out of him, and they built this Miami team to instantly take off, and they were better with Fitzmagic at the helm. Deshaun Watson not only would bring that great defense and offense to the next level, he would bring Miami to not only relevancy, but Super Bowl contending relevancy. I'm not joking here. The Miami Dolphins could be Super Bowl contenders by just adding Deshaun Watson. That is the best possible fit. That is a win-now scenario. They've got the players, they've got the money, they got the cap space. Bring Deshaun Watson to Miami. Trade Tua Tagovailoa to Houston. Let Houston get another, your first-round picks as well. I don't care. If I'm Miami, this is the deal I'm trying to do. This next player, while he is not on the trade block yet, while he has not had discussions with his team, while his team has not said anything about this player, Marcus Mariota's name has picked up steam on a lot of teams' rosters. Marcus Mariota, the former Heisman Trophy winner, the Oregon Duck all-time legend. As I stare in puddles, my trophy of puddles, I stare at my Oregon Ducks banner, my Oregon Ducks hat. Right? If there's anybody that's that understands a legend at Oregon, it's this guy. The legend that was Marcus Mariota. He is now probably going to become available. There have been several teams that have reached out for Marcus Mariota. We saw last year the one time that Marcus Mariota got to play, had an incredible game, lost in overtime, just balled out, played fantastic. So what is a good landing spot for Marcus Mariota? First and foremost, the WTFers. For those of you who are, don't know what I'm talking about, the Washington football team, I call them the WTFers, right? The WTFers need a quarterback. While I like Alex Smith is not the answer for the future. While Alex Smith is the comeback player for years to come, while the trophy should be named after this man, Marcus Mariota would bring that offense a dynamic playmaker, would bring that offense a better overall quarterback than Alex Smith. If we know what Alex Smith did last year, it was incredible. But what we saw was check down Alex. And when it really mattered, Alex could not move the football the way he needed to. Couldn't push the ball down past 15 yards. They've got good running backs. They've got a good offensive line. They've got a great defensive line. They've got a steady defense. They've got good wide receivers. Add a dynamic playmaker like Marcus Mariota to that roster, and that is a team that will be contending for the division championship every single year. And when I say division championship, I don't mean the NFC division champion. Okay, just so we're clear. Their personal division. Okay, the NFC East, I think it is. Right? That's a team that could beat the Eagles, could beat Dallas, can beat all the teams within their own division every single year, and could be up top of that board. Now, I know that's probably high praise. A lot of you are like, dude, it's just Marcus Mariota. But with a good play caller, with Ron Rivera's team, he just fits that situation very well. And I think where Marcus Mariota needs to go is a situation that fits him well. Another place, Chicago. Go to Chicago. Here's the deal. Matt Nagy runs what he ran in college. It is a great fit for Marcus Mariota. I think it's a good fit for the Chicago Bears. Now, this was something that people were talking about. Why didn't he go the last time this whole discussion was up when Marcus Mariota was a free agent? Why didn't he go to Chicago? Well, for those of you who don't know, Mitchell Trubisky's agent and Marcus Mariota's agent are the same person. So they weren't going to send Marcus Mariota up there to compete with their own client. But now the opportunity has arose. We know Mitchell Trubisky's probably going to end up, quarterbacking Houston or starting for Jacksonville after the mullet finally gets injured after the first 10 minutes of the first game of the year. right? So I think Marcus Mariota to Chicago would be a lot of fun to see, especially for me, a Chicago guy and an Oregon guy. But I think the best fit would be the WTFers in the Washington football team. Well, there you have it. That is my NFL and NBA trade rumors. Another episode is in the books. Now, I want you to do me a favor before this podcast ends. If you like the locker room, if you're enjoying this episode, if you have anything positive to say about the locker room, share us with one friend this week. Just one. That's all it takes. Just go to one friend and say, hey, check out this podcast. Hey, check out his social media. Just one person this week. Listen, guys, you are the only reason this podcast is growing. So if you can do us that small little favor, this locker room faithful family would grow even more. I want to thank you all for joining me today. We also have a brand new Puncher's Chance dropping this Friday. That's right, this Friday, Puncher's Chance episode 3. Make sure you're checking that out. Share us with a friend. Have a great day. I'm Jacob Courtwright. This is The Locker Room.